The Dark Soul Emperor deduced for a while, and said, "This is tomorrow's matter. Tomorrow, Huang Jiulong will continue to lead Zhang Zongbao and the 5 of them to fight." It took a full day to fight. When the sunset was sinking, Yunhua Fairy calculated a new opportunity. She told Huang Jiulong, "Today at noon, someone went to your residence to find you. Note, this is tomorrow's noon. Pay attention to the time, the details will be used later. And sent you a treasure map, but you were not there. He waited for you for a full hour, and found that you had not returned, so he had to put the treasure map on the table, and leave you a signed letter. I can calculate that there is a big chance in this treasure map. It seems to be a jar of some big supplement. You don't be busy boxing first, go back and get it." Speaking of this, the Dark Soul Emperor paused for a moment and continued. Yunhua Fairy told Huang Jiulong to hurry back, and Huang Jiulong did hurry back this time, but it was already a day and one morning late. Because it's only time. This news has been known to us in advance. After that, the Dark Soul Emperor calculated the treasure map again, and after a little, said, "That treasure map can dig out a jar of spiritual essence. This thing I was fortunate enough to get in the Golden World. It can replenish a large amount of essence, especially for the dead. It is a big supplement. This thing is just enough to give the Fairy Queen corpse to eat, and once she is revived in the future, it will be a big help for you." Su Chang'e was overjoyed. What made him happy was that, in addition to cutting off the treasure map, there was another layer of unexpected surprise. "I really didn't expect that the Dark Soul Emperor was so awesome that even what the treasure map could dig up could be pushed out in advance. In other words, I can directly know what treasure map is a good treasure map, and what treasure map is a garbage treasure map through him in the future. For example, if you can dig up good things, it is a good treasure map. I will directly leave it to dig myself. And those who can only dig up garbage, such as digging traps, miasma, demon, beast lairs, and other treasure maps of garbage, directly throw them to Huang Jiulong. These 5 jumping fleas, let them dig, pit them will not kill them. Ha ha ha, cool." Suddenly, the figure of the Dark Soul Emperor dimmed for a moment, and he lost his voice. "It's not good, it's overdrawn again." Su Chang'e didn't care about him and put it into the jade bracelet. At this moment, Zhang Zongbao suddenly stopped punching. His figure flashed in front of Su Chang'e. First he punched a few times with his face, causing the air to crackle, and then he said with a sinister smile, "Little transparent. When the tournament comes, I will take care of you first," he said as he twisted his neck and rubbed his fists, making a clicking sound of bone joints. "Oh?" Su Chang'e smiled coldly and said, "You can really jump. Well, it's better for me to take care of you first, and it's a good care. I don't know what you think." Zhang Zongbao was stunned, but he didn't hear what he meant. Xiao transparent and not cultivated, but he is a dignified divine palace realm. What does he take care of himself? Just thinking about it, he suddenly saw Su Chang'e take a step and walk directly towards Tiantai Peak. What is he going to do? Zhang Zongbao touched his brain. In the clouds, Huang Jiulong and Hu Han, as well as Wang Wei Sikong too, saw the scene, and their eyes froze one after another, not knowing what Su Chang'e was going to do. It didn't take long for Su Chang'e to return. Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2aa54z8b. Behind him was a slender and feminine figure. Zhang Zongbao fixed his eyes and looked at it. It turned out to be Chu Shui. Suddenly, his eyelids jumped, and he said angrily, "Little transparent, what are you going to do?" Su Chang'e was too lazy to bird him, turned his head and said to Chu Shui, "Go Follow me into the house to be happy and happy. Chu Shui nodded and kept up with him. Zhang Zongbao's eyes were suddenly anxious, and he shouted, "Don't." After saying that, his brain was hot, and he directly stretched out his hand in a hurry, and actually wanted to step forward and grab Chu Shui's white wrist. "You." This moment, Chu Shui's eyes were cold, and her eyes like autumn water, cutting pupils, were like the turn of seasons in an instant, interpreting the 3 winters of ice and snow, and said coldly, "Don't touch me, get away." As soon as the words fell, she drew her sword out of its sheath and slashed it, but fortunately Zhang Zongbao withdrew her hand in time, otherwise she would have to be cut off by a sword. "If there is a next time, your hand, don't ask for it." Chu Shui snorted coldly, and immediately followed Su Changge into the room. Bang! The door was slammed. Immediately after, there was a sound of intense movement inside. The whole wooden house vibrates with the vigorous movement. Zhang Zongbao's face suddenly changed tragically, and he almost cried out. Before he could hold back, like a big stone blocked in his heart, extremely uncomfortable. Aya! Aya! He was full of frustration and had nowhere to vent, so he had to stand outside. Find a big rock, and punch hard. Boom! He slammed his fist on the stone, and blood suddenly splattered on his fist. And the flesh and blood were rotten, revealing the white bones inside. His punch did not use Shui, purely to vent the anger in his heart. Soon, the day passed in the blink of an eye. Late at night, Huang Jiolong left several one after another, only he was still standing here to punch, not running cultivation. He used flesh punches. The pair of fists he hit were oozing blood, bloodstained, and broken bones, but he didn't realize it. He still hit fiercely, his eyes were bloody, he gritted his teeth and hit desperately, venting fiercely. It wasn't until the next day, when it was bright and the sun was dry, that Chu Shui came out of the hut. Zhang Zongbao's heart moved, and he quickly turned his head to look, only to see that her face was flushed, her hair was messy, the hair on her head was all off, and the person was also a little haggard, and her white little face was slightly sallow, as if she had exhausted her energy after a night of sleeplessness. Zhang Zongbao was anxious, and hurriedly walked over and asked, "You and him? No, sleep." Slept? Chu Shui's face changed suddenly, and she said angrily, "What's the matter with you? Get away." After that, he left without looking back. Plop! Zhang Zongbao plopped down, as if he had lost everything. His legs and feet were paralyzed on the ground, and he couldn't slow down for a long time. It wasn't until a long time later that he finally came to his senses, his eyes looking ahead like a piece of wood, stunned. After a little, hysterical tears to the sky. Little transparent, wait for the tournament, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. Huang Jiolong led Wang Wei to the scene at this time, and when he saw this scene, he sighed one after another. Then, Huang Jiolong stepped forward, patted Zhang Zongbao's shoulder, and persuaded bitterly, "Brother, isn't it just a woman? There are more beautiful women in this world. As for it?" Unexpectedly, as soon as these words came out, it was immediately like touching Zhang Zongbao's anti-scales, and he instantly broke out, pointing at Huang Jiolong's nose and scolding, "You know a few, rolled a calf." Huang Jiolong was shocked, but did not dare to refute it. He really cultivated to only the Will See realm, and if Zhang Zongbao really beat him with a hot brain, he could only be beaten in vain. If it is because of this matter, it will be a big trouble. I won't fight this punch, leave. Zhang Zongbao roared up to the sky and ran towards Tiantai Peak madly, crying and shouting all the way. Alas! Sikong Tu and Wang Weiahuhan let out a long sigh at the same time. Huang Jiulong secretly breathed a sigh of relief, and his heart was very happy. Fortunately, Zhang Zongbao didn't suddenly burst out to clean him up just now. Otherwise he would have shown his stuffing. Like Yi Qingyao, no matter how bad he is also the lord of a peak. He is a powerful purple mansion realm, and it is excusable for slaps to fly him, and he can also explain. But Zhang Zongbao was only one realm higher than him, and at the Yuanfu level. If he really slapped him, he couldn't explain it at all. At that time, the paper will not be able to contain the fire. After all, no matter how much the strength declines, it will not drop to such an unbearable level, right? From the Quasi-Saint descent to the Yuan mansion, how many great realms have been dropped, and the uproar does not carry such an outrageous awe. Can't say it, right? Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2aa54z8b. Thinking of this, Huang Jiulong hurriedly diverted the topic and said, Junior Brother Zhang may have a mental collapse, ordinary people can't persuade him. They can only wait for him to heal himself. Let's fight first. What senior brother Huang said is reasonable, then let's start. Hu Han nodded. Immediately, the four of them took off into the air and stood on Suchonga's house to punch. In an instant, the fist wind roared and roared on the house, and the thunder was like beating a gong and drum in the house. At this time, Suchonga was actually not inside, but in the Shenhuang Pagoda of heaven and earth, eating barbecue meat with Lier and Xiao Yumiimii. Xiao Yu, Lier, this barbecue is ready, take it and eat it. Young Master Xia. Thank you, Master, the Master's craftsmanship is so good. Xiao Yu and Lier took the barbecue meat and gathered around the bonfire with Suchonga, eating with a mouthful of fragrant. This is a little stalk of wild boar leg meat that Suchonga beat in the mountains near Runing City before, and it has not been eaten, and it can be taken out for a banquet at this time. And the craft is learned from Yunchong. It wasn't until it was almost noon that Suchonga estimated that the person who sent the treasure map was about to go to Huang Jiulong, so he exited the pagoda and returned to the wooden house. Before leaving, he explained more, don't go out for the time being. Xiao Yu and Lier nodded one after another. Later, Suchonga returned to the wooden house, and immediately heard the roar like thunder above, which was simply annoying. He opened the door and walked out. Seeing him come out, Huang Jiulong waved his hand and signaled everyone to stop. Suchonga glanced at them and waved his big hand. Why did it stop? Don't be polite with me, come and come, then box, then practice. Huang Jiulong's face suddenly darkened. Why didn't you suppress this angry goods? There is a feeling of punching cotton. He turned his head and shouted, don't let Xiao transparent down, keep fighting. Immediately, the four of them showed their skills, and suddenly the air rumbled loudly. Suchonga looked at it for a while, and said with a fierce smile, you guys fight slowly, I'm a little scared, first lose company, and come back. Immediately, Huang Jiulong suddenly looked moved and said, how afraid are you? I'm very afraid, Suchonga praised, don't mention it, your fist is coming. I only feel the crackling wind in front of me, and my face is faintly painful. As if the wind is full of fists, the pain on my face is unbearable, even the bones are shattered, so let's lose company first, you wait for me here, I will be back soon. Huang Jiulong laughed heartily and said proudly, okay, then I'll wait for you here. That's what I want. Suchunga nodded in satisfaction and went forward with confidence. Tiantai Peak. Suchunga walked all the way here, through the Iron Lock Bridge. Then he turned around and found a place where there was no one, and the shadow. Ghost sneaked into the shadows. Finally, he traveled around and sneaked into Huang Jiolong's residence. I have to say that Huang Jiolong's residence is really luxurious. No, it is luxurious, sweeping away the golden splendor. There are golden utensils everywhere, even the floor tiles under his feet are made of gold, like a luxurious garden, bright 24K, pure gold titanium alloy dog eyes. Suchunga looked around and sneered, Huang Jiolong, you really have the courage to enjoy it, and I don't know if you live here and live in peace, waiting for the tournament, you will fall very badly from high and be blasted out from here. After speaking, he suddenly shook his head and said, how to blast out, I'm afraid that Du Sihai will be eager to transform this place into purgatory at that time, peel him off layer by layer, and torture him all night. Du Sihai's subordinates are raising many dead soldiers, all of them are ruthless, eat people and do not spit out bones. If Huang Jiolong shows his stuffing at that time, it will depend on his creation. Suchunga laughed as he thought about it. Subsequently, he lurked in the shadow of the wall. It was probably not long before the sun was up, and the time arrived at noon. At this time, there was indeed a breaking wind sound outside. Immediately after, there was a knock on the door. Knock knock. Is Senior Brother Huang there? The person who came was a man's voice, slightly rough, and according to the voice, he was probably in his 30s. Suchunga's divine sense swept away, and found that his body exuded the aura of the cave void realm. This level is very remarkable in the outside world. But he can only be an outer disciple in the sect. Seeing that there was no response inside, this disciple already expected that the people inside were not there, and said to himself, it should go out, then I will wait here for a while. He didn't know that Huang Jiolong had gone to Luofeng. This kind of thing, Huang Jiolong generally only talks to his henchmen, and through yesterday's events, Huang Jiolong ordered that no uninformed person should know about this matter, otherwise it would be bad if there was an exogenous branch. Huang Jiolong is extremely intelligent and naturally steps by step. Soon, an hour passed. Seeing that Huang Jiolong had not yet returned, this disciple was a little anxious, and simply said, it's better to throw something in. Just about to vote, he suddenly slapped his head and said, wait a minute, but he doesn't know. What if I sent it? Wouldn't I have wasted my effort? After thinking for a while, he suddenly said, there you have it. He took a piece of paper from his pocket, wrote a letter, then put the treasure map and the letter in the bag and threw it through the window. Then, he rubbed his hands excitedly and said joyfully, when Senior Brother Huang sees this treasure map, he will definitely notice me, so he will take more care of me, and then I will. Flying is not a dream. Treasure maps are extremely precious, usually only available in black market auctions, but not often, depending on the opportunity. He just spent a lot of money to get this opportunity. As soon as he thought of the days when he climbed Huang Jiolong and flew Huang Tingda, this disciple straightened his head high and raised his eyebrows. Then, I left satisfied. After he left, Suchunga picked up the bag with a smile, opened it, and found a treasure map. It is an ancient parchment scroll with various route markings, blue lines, and red arrows, and a condensed drawing of many mountain ranges in the host region. Below, the arrow eventually points to a mountain. Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2aa54z8b. That's where the treasure digging was. It turned out to be Dragon Emperor Mountain. A gleam flashed in Suchanga's eyes. Dragon Emperor Mountain is not far from the sect, it is less than an hour away, and it flies faster. Immediately, he opened the letter again. After only one glance, I found that it was some sycophant words, and I hope to carry more in the future, and I am willing to give senior brother Huang as a cow and a horse, before and after the saddle. All kinds of balabalas or something. Want to stab Huang Jiulong? Suchanga couldn't help but shake his head and sneered, is there a future for mixing with him? He must not take you to the ditch? With a finger, a stream of magma erupted and burned the letter directly to ashes. He didn't help this disciple eliminate the disaster, but the treasure map was taken away by himself, and this thing obviously couldn't exist. After doing this, he got up and went back. It didn't take long to return to Yua Peak. I saw that Huang Jiulong and the four were still dancing there, the wind sang for them, and the dust applauded them. The scene was like a non-mainstream pulling a cement bag and dancing cement, that was called a joy. Suchanga walked over and said, Senior brother Huang, I'm really sorry to make you wait for a long time. Wait soon, it doesn't matter. Huang Jiulong waved his hand nonchalantly, continued to punch, and continued to practice. Just after 2 hits, he suddenly felt empty in his heart, as if he had lost something precious, and this feeling was very bad, which made his eyes jump. Strange. He chuckled in his heart, thinking that something like a peerless Tianjiao was about to be revealed. He quickly recalled whether there was any place to show the stuffing recently. In the end, the result was given, no. As long as it's not that, it doesn't matter. He patted his chest to cheer himself up, suppressing the fear, then punching and practicing. Suchanga also ignored him and sat at the door, looking at him like a fool. Time passes slowly, and in the blink of an eye, the sun sets and the sunset sinks in the west. Then, in Huang Jiulong's ring, the voice of Yunhua Fairy was heard, I just reversed it. At noon today, someone went to your residence to find you and sent you a treasure map, but you were not there. He waited for you for a full hour and found that you had not returned. Don't be busy punching first, go back and get it. Good. Huang Jiulong was overjoyed, and then waved his palm and shouted to everyone, finish work. With a few clicks, everyone stopped. Afterwards, returned to Tiantai Peak. Suchanga watched them leave, sneered in his heart, and immediately prepared to go to Dragon Emperor Mountain. When I walked to the bottom of the mountain, I suddenly found that Master Shui Hongyao was also here. Seeing him going down the mountain alone, Shui Hongyao couldn't help but ask, Xiajij, where are you going? Suchanga said succinctly, go to Longhuang Mountain. Such a coincidence, Shui Hongyao pursed her lips and smiled, it just so happens that I also want to go out for a spin, why don't we go together? It's also a companion. Without waiting for him to answer, Shui Hongyao directly opened her pink wrist and grabbed his arm, and said generously, oh, come quickly, Master wants to stick with you. Suchanga thought about it, and felt that one more person seemed to be nothing, and immediately nodded, okay, let's go. Go. Aqua Red Yao Smile Model. P.S. Thank you for the 666 sent out yesterday, passing water brilliant, crab. Crab. Little Author Online thanks. Thank you so much. The other side. Huang Jiulong had returned to his residence. No time wasted, immediately looked around. However, after looking around, I couldn't find a treasure map. On the table, on the floor, there is nothing. He first looked puzzled, and then suddenly thought of something. His face sank, and said in a deep voice, "Master, you won't lie to me, right?" "Huh?" In the ring, Yunhua Fairy heard this, and suddenly couldn't help but feel cold in his heart, and a touch of disappointment appeared. He even doubted himself? "You wait for me, I'll do the math." She sensed that something was wrong and began to deduce Huang Jiulong's fate today. But after deducing for a long time, he couldn't deduce anything unusual, and he didn't know who suddenly inserted into his fate and changed all this. However, she is a quasi-saint power, her brain turns quickly, and after a little thought, she immediately finds a new breakthrough. Since you can't deduce Huang Jiulong's fate today, then deduce the fate of this floor is the same. She looked at the floor and began to deduce. Soon, the truth emerged. At noon, a bag was thrown from the window and fell to the floor, and then an invisible hand took the bag away, burned the letter again, and the dust fell on the floor. That's the process. Is that so? A touch of incredulity appeared in Yunhua Fairy's eyes. The invisible big hand was transparent, like an invisible person. She couldn't see clearly, and she tried to deduce, but just after a moment of deduction, it was like falling into a muddy swamp, and it seemed to enter the vast deep sea. Holding up her eyes, and she couldn't find any results. Although I couldn't find the person, I always understood the cause and effect. She originally wanted to tell Huang Jiulong this, but when the words came to her lips, she suddenly shook her head and didn't say anything. Huang Jiulong had wronged her just now, which made her feel very uncomfortable, and there was already a trace of estrangement. And in the light, there was also a faint disappointment for Huang Jiulong. These Huang Jiulong did not know. Outside the sect, in the clouds, the Shui Hangyao royal sword flew, and Su Chang'e stood at the tail of the sword. "Xiao Gij, if it weren't for your master and me, you would have to work hard to go to Dragon Emperor Mountain. Look at this, I'll take you to fly." "How fast?" Shui Hangyao looked at the green earth that was rapidly passing below, and her face was delighted. For her words, Su Chang'e smiled and didn't say much. "Who can't fly yet?" However, this will not be known until the master mother of the tournament. So now, it's understandable. Shui Hangyao turned her head to look at him, released a smile, and said, "Although you can also apply for a guardian to follow, where are those bad old men as pleasing to the eyes as a big beauty? With me, a big beauty, to chat with you all the way, excluding loneliness, isn't it 1,000 times more comfortable than those bad old men?" Su Chang'e suddenly thought of driving. Before crossing, I heard that when some drivers drive to Tibet, it is inevitable that a person will be bored after driving for a long time, and if someone rides at this time, the two will not be bored talking and will arrive at their destination leisurely. If the other party wants to be a woman, especially a beautiful woman, then it will be instantly energetic. Thinking of this, he also responded with a smile in the past and said with a smile, "Yes, master, thanks to you, I am not lonely along the way." Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2aa54z8b. Who let my master milk you? Shui Hangyao's pink little mouth skimmed. "If I change to someone else, I won't milk it, Su Chang'e just smiled. While speaking, he unknowingly arrived at Dragon Emperor Mountain. Looking down, I saw lofty mountains, and green waters, and lush greenery. Shui Hangyao suddenly had an epiphany and said, "By the way, Xiajij, why are you coming to Dragon Emperor Mountain?" Su Chang'e didn't hide it, took out the treasure map, and said, "Let's dig for treasure." Shui. Hong Yao was stunned, her gaze fell on this treasure map, and she was surprised. You actually have a treasure map? The treasure map is extremely rare, difficult to find. It is a great opportunity. How did he get it? Little Gidge, how can you have a treasure map? She asked the doubts in her heart. Suchanga smiled and said, someone sent me. Sent yours? Shui Hongyao suddenly felt incredible, and asked, who is so good to you that they gave you such a big opportunity? Mo is not female? Suchanga shook his head and said, how could it be? It was sent to me by a fool. Shui Hongyao only thought he was joking, and didn't ask more, and his mind moved and led him to fly down. When she fell to the ground, she chuckled again, thank you for accompanying you. If it weren't for me, someone would definitely covet this treasure map of yours and grab it. Someone once got a treasure map, and before he could put it in his pocket, someone cut off his arm, blood dripped, and the treasure map was snatched away. It can be said that a treasure map can cause a series of bloody storms. Suchanga understood her thoughts and praised, yes, the master is so good to me, with you, which Xiao Xiao who does not have long eyes dares to come and grab it? Che, who doesn't want to live and dare to come and grab my treasure map? Tianquan Town God Seal to understand? That's right. Shui Hongyao smiled, her pink lips slightly opened, and said, Xiao Gidge, your mouth is so sweet. Suchanga nodded, didn't say much, and began to dig for treasures. Following the route instructions of the treasure map, he soon came to a call-in. Longhuang Mountain. There is a mound that looks like a lonely tomb on the outside, and the command of the treasure map is in front of this mound. No nonsense, immediately take out a shovel and start digging. Shoo. Not long after, the shovel suddenly touched something hard and made a dang sound. Digged. Suchanga's eyes lit up. In sight, a ceramic jar came out. The jar was grayish-white, the size of a leg belly, and was stained with a lot of mud, apparently buried here for a long time. What is it? On the side, Shui Hongyao was puzzled. Suchanga did not speak, but first took out the jar, went to the water's edge to wash off the mud on it, and then began to look carefully. I saw that this jar was very ordinary, as if it was fired in an earthen kiln. And there was no precious place at all, but the rich aroma faintly emitted from the seal of the jar made his whole body shake and his spirit doubled. Shui Hongyao also smelled this faint aroma, and suddenly felt that her mind was clear, her ears were clear, and her body was comfortable. Suchanga unscrewed the seal and glanced inside, only then did he smile and said, Master, we have great luck, this seems to be a jar of spiritual essence. The reason why he didn't say it just now is that he doesn't have the means of an unknown prophet. How can he know what is inside before he opens it? Is it possible? Although Shermuyu is fierce, she is not brainless, and she will definitely detect clues. And at the glance he had just seen, this spiritual essence was extremely pure and without any impurities. Spirit essence? Shui Hongyao was shocked in her heart, and her pink lips suddenly opened wide. She hurriedly covered her mouth and said in a lost voice, This is a treasure. If you drink it, you can replenish a large amount of essence, and you will earn a lot. As soon as the words fell, she suddenly realized something, her expression fell sharply, and she said helplessly, It's a pity that you are not a cultivator. Although this thing is good, you can only drink it as honey, alas. It's a pity. Then it's time to pick up a ready-made brush. Who is ready-made? Naturally, it is the master and mother. Usually the number of times to honor the master and mother is a little small. And the treasures obtained are all for the beautiful master and the little mercy, and the master and mother are counted once. So it's really time to honor her. After making up his mind, he handed the ceramic jar over and said, Master, this jar of spiritual essence has been sent to you, take it. Huh? Shui Hongyao was stunned suddenly, her fair and flawless cheeks were full of surprise, and she said, Little Song. You really want to send me? Suchunga nodded and said, Yes, I want to send you. Shui Hongyao was shocked and said, This just dug up, it's still hot, you didn't drink a sip, you directly changed hands to send me? Yes. Suchunga nodded crisply and neatly, not distressed at all. Shui Hongyao is still unbelievable, you must know that this spiritual essence is extremely valuable, extremely rare, and it is an excellent tonic. But it was directly given to himself in the hands of the apprentice like he did not want money? She was just about to open her mouth to ask why, but suddenly stopped asking. Could it be, she thought of a possibility in her heart, and her pretty face couldn't help but blush, thinking about it. Could it be? I said before that his master died early, did he know? Thinking of this, her pretty face turned even redder, stretched out her snow-skinned jade hand, and accepted the spiritual essence. Ding! You sent a can of spiritual essence, tens of billions of subsidies took effect, triggering an excess critical attack. This excess critical attack multiplier, 110,000 times. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Cold Pheasant Frost Silkworm Dew. Cold Pheasant Frost Silkworm Dew? Suchunga was overjoyed, and when he heard the name, he knew that it must be a treasure. Immediately, view the system entry. It didn't take long to understand what this thing was. This is a more pure treasure than the essence of the spiritual essence, containing a rich and dense essence, jade dew, which is an extremely rare supplement in heaven and earth. Drinking a sip not only can replenish the essence in the body, but also strengthen the bones, nourish the essence, and activate the body. Jing Yuan can increase the strength of true qi in the human body, and the thicker the Jing Yuan, the more majestic the true qi is. Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2aa54z8b. With a strong true qi, then the strength that bursts out is naturally incomparable. It can be imagined that having such a large bucket of cold pheasant frost silkworm dew has brought him a huge increase, like a tiger with wings. Next, he looked at the system space. I saw a huge bucket standing there. The bucket was 2 meters high and 1 meter thick, like the ancient big wine barrel of Blue Star, and it was filled with a large bucket of cold pheasant frost silkworm dew. Since the master and mother were still here, Suchunga didn't drink it, and it was not too late to drink it when he went back. Next, he looked at the spiritual essence in Shui Hongyao's hand and said, Master, eat quickly, this is all good essence, eat a big supplement. Shui Hongyao said happily, then I'll eat it. She took a wooden spoon and cup from her body and prepared to scoop it up. But suddenly, on a whim, turned around and handed the wooden spoon cup to Suchunga, and said, That Zayajij, I usually milk you so many times, now it's time to change your milk. To me, how? Okay, how's the milk? Suchunga did not intend to refuse. Shui Hongyao blushed and said softly, What about me? I want you to feed me. Can you? No problem. Suchunga didn't think about it, and directly agreed. Master is usually so good to herself, and he should be good to her once. He took the wooden spoon and cup and said, Then do you sit down or lie down? It's better to sit than to lie down, lie down. Shui Hongyao took out a small bed from the storage bag and took out a pillow, and then suddenly felt that it was not very convenient to be in broad daylight here, looked around, and said, "There is a cave, let's go to the cave." "Okay, let's go." Suchanga picked up the jar and walked towards the cave. Soon, the two came to the cave. The cave was very large and spacious. Shui Hongyao put the small bed away, lay down, and said with joy on her face, "Come and feed me." Suchanga put the wooden spoon into the jar, scooped a full spoonful of spiritual essence into the cup, and then walked to the end of the bed and said, "Master, open your mouth." Shui Hongyao opened her cherry mouthful, waiting for him to feed it beautifully. In the blink of an eye, Suchanga came to her eyes and fed the essence. Phew, initial Shui Hongyao let out a grunt, but quickly swallowed. Then he praised with a look of enjoyment, "It's so sweet. This spiritual essence is as sweet as honey, and the color is also golden. Like a flowing piece of real gold, very pure. If master likes it, let's have another drink." Suchanga scooped another spoonful into the cup and began to feed her. Time passed in the blink of an eye, a cup of tea. At this time, a jar of essence all entered Shui Hongyao's stomach. Hiccup, she burped beautifully, her moisturized pretty face blushing, her face full of satisfaction. Then, he spoke again. "Little song. Xiao Gij, now that you're done with your business, it's time to do my business, right?" After drinking so much spiritual essence, Shui Hongyao's cheeks are rosy and shiny, the true qi in the body is moisturized, and the whole person's temperament is more mature and charming, very charming. Without waiting for Suchanga to reply, she said directly, "I have a place to go, but I want you to accompany me, don't you refuse me, okay?" "Going together?" Suchanga asked, "Where to go?" "Shui." Hongyao stretched out her snowskin jade hand, grabbed his arm and held it in her arms, and shouted in disgust, "Oh, why do you ask so much? Just follow me, I won't eat you." With that, he put away the bed and dragged him by the arm to the outside of the cave. Suchanga's brows frowned slightly. "It's not that you don't go, but you're still in a hurry to go back to absorb the cold pheasant frost silkworm dew. The tournament is getting closer and closer, and it's only right to hurry up and improve your strength. Is it important to you?" Suchanga still planned to take a look at the criticality. "Very important." Shui Hongyao said, "It's about my future. You don't want to see my master and mother being fished away by other men, right?" "Huh?" Suchanga's eyes were cold. "Master, what's going on?" "Forget it, I'll just say it," Shui Hongyao said, "your master and mother are charming, mature charm and touching style, and there are many great cultivators who remember it very much, they think about it day and night, and they can't wait to rip off this neon robe on my body, see the snow white, do you know?" Suchanga's face turned cold, and he said in a deep voice, "Say it." Shui Hongyao turned her head to look outside the cave and said, "To summarize simply, there is a cultivator in the middle of the Ascension realm. I have only one-side relationship with him, I am not acquainted, and I am not even a friend, but he has repeatedly asked me to play chess with him, but how can I not see through his mind? Playing chess is fake, coveting my beauty is real." "And then?" Suchanga asked. "And then of course I refused." Shui Hongyao helplessly supported her forehead and continued, "I have repeatedly refused righteous words, but what about him? Every time I persevered to write love letters to me, I was annoyed in my heart, annoyed, and then simply ignored him, but I didn't expect him to chase after him. Love letters wrote me a big basket, piled up into a mountain. I Couldn't resist. I planned to refuse him in person this time, 100. But when I walked to the bottom of the mountain, it happened that you were also going down the mountain, so I had a whim, and I planned to take you with me to reject him, and then I would say that you were my Taoist partner, and let him completely die this heart. Speaking of this, Shui Hongyao's pair of jade hands hugged his arms a little tighter, and said, and you look like a star, the god is handsome, and your figure is as tall as a pine, like a jade tree, how faceless I take you out. You don't want to see master and mother being fished away by other men, do you? Su Chang'e was speechless. Help master this time, well, it's not impossible. Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2aa54z8b. After all, it's not your fault that you're handsome. Yes, but you have to compensate me for something, right? He asked in turn. Shui Hongyao agreed without thinking, and said with a grin, then I don't know what compensation my family's little song wants. Su Chang'e's gaze fell on her curvaceous waist. There hangs a sachet that gives off a refreshing fragrance. In fact, this sachet Su Chang'e has been attracted to his heart since the day he entered the sect, and at that time he always felt that this sachet smelled very, very fragrant, like peony flowers blooming, fresh and charming, and the body was refreshing. Now that I have cultivated for rehearing, I suddenly feel that my cultivation seems to be consolidated all the time. In other words, this sachet is a treasure that consolidates cultivation at every moment. Seeing that his gaze fell on his waist and couldn't move his eyes, Shui Hongyao's face suddenly appeared red clouds, her lips opened and closed, and she called softly, why, my family's little song wants to touch it. Before Su Chang'e could speak, she found that her palm was suddenly pulled by her, and she directly pasted it towards the willow-like graceful thin waist. And then heard her fall and say generously, if you want to touch it, come here. Su Chang'e is not a hypocritical person, he will be wrong and touch it fiercely. It feels soft to the touch, like touching cotton. Very soft and cool. But naturally he will not forget the sachet, looking at the sachet and saying, I still want this. Shui Hongyao glanced down at the sachet and said with a grin, you think this thing smells good before you want it? You don't know something, in fact, this is not an ordinary thing, but a bag of exquisite pollen, if people absorb. Cultivation will be stable and consolidated. What does it mean, that is, with this thing, the cultivator does not need to worry about the unstable foundation every time he breaks through, breathes such a fragrance to sleep. When he wakes up, the cultivation is automatically stable. So cool. Su Chang'e is very happy. With this thing, the return of the brushback is definitely better. Last time, although the foundation of the previous breakthrough was consolidated all at once, but what about later? In the future, I have to worry about brushing the super treasure pill that consolidates the foundation, but with this thing, I don't have to worry about the foundation at all in the future, and I don't have to worry about the foundation even if I spread the joy of ascension. This is one word, cool. Shui Hongyao added, actually, I wanted to give you this sachet for a long time, but you are not a cultivator, so it is useless to take it, so I didn't give it. Su Chang'e smiled and did not answer. Also, Shui Hongyao changed her tone at this time, you can if you want, but you have to come with me first, and when this matter is done, I will give it to you. Su Chang'e didn't know whether to cry or laugh, and said, I won't pay the bill. Shui Hongyao interrupted him directly and said, anyway, if you don't pretend to be my Taoist, then I won't be willing, don't worry. in the northern part of the eastern region, in a foggy mountain. Here is called Wanglu Mountain. The sunshine incense burner produces purple smoke, looking at the waterfall hanging in front of the river, and halfway up the mountain, there is a cave mansion made in heaven and earth, and a line of big characters is carved on the stone wall at the door, Wanglishan Waterfall Cave. Phew! The void streaked through a sound of breaking wind, and two figures came with swords and fell outside the cave mansion. It's not someone else, it's Su Chang'e and Shui Hongyao. Hey, Song Dao Yu, I've arrived, come out and play chess. Shui Hongyao looked inside the cave mansion and shouted from afar. But the words fell for a long time and there was no movement inside, and no one came out. Shui Hongyao felt very strange and wondered, could it be that he didn't hear it? She shouted again, Song Dao Yu, didn't you ask me to come? I'm here now, why? Are you so sluggish? It stands to reason that this monk surnamed Song has been salivating over her. And now that she has finally come to visit, the monk surnamed Song should hurry out and greet her with a smile on his face. But what's wrong with no response now? Isn't it asleep? Shui Hongyao thought about it and could only come up with this explanation. Then, she took Su Chang'e's hand and said, go in and take a look. Su Chang'e raised her foot and went in with her. Although the cave is dark, there are many strange stones when you go inside. Until you reach the depths of the cave mansion, and you see that on the ceiling above your head, gemstones emit bright treasures, shining here like daylight. Shui Hongyao's eyes scanned the surroundings, looked around, but did not see the monk surnamed Song, and couldn't help but wonder, strange, did he go out today? Here, Su Chang'e looked around and felt very strange. The two were wondering. Suddenly, the ceiling above his head made a clicking sound, as if some mechanism had been activated, and between the electric flint, a huge Xian iron dog cage fell upside down. The dog cage was huge, rising in the wind, instantly covering the ground, trapping the two of them in it, and then shrinking sharply to become the size of a house, trapping them firmly inside. Shui Hongyao's eyes froze, and before she could speak, the space next to her fluctuated, and a middle-aged Taoist with a gloomy face walked out. Ha ha ha, Shui Hongyao, how many times have I asked you out, you don't come. Every time, now that you are here, don't think about leaving. Shui Hongyao was angry in her heart and said, the surname is Song, what are you doing? The middle-aged Taoist directly showed his original form and cursed, Shui Hongyao, do you think you are very expensive? It's just a plaything. He pointed to the dog cage, brushed his beard, and laughed, I have always begged for you, thinking day and night, I can't sleep at night, but you are good, you refuse me every time, well, I simply don't do it and earn you. Su Chang'e suddenly understood what the situation was, and sneered, Master. He is embarrassed and angry. He knew very well in his heart, didn't he just look up to the goddess, covet 3 feet, but couldn't ask for it, and finally became angry, and went to extremes? Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2aa54z8b. I have to say that the courage is quite big. Shui Hongyao's face changed, and she jerked out her sword and slashed at the iron cage, but unexpectedly, the iron cage only burst out a little Mars, and nothing happened, but the sword broke. It's useless, the middle-aged Taoist shook his head and laughed, have you forgotten that my cultivation is a small realm higher than yours? And I am still a formation master, and my attainments in the formation road are extremely high. You have become a turtle in the urn, and you don't want to get out of this dog cage in this life and this life. Speaking of this, he suddenly came over and said with a sneer, in addition, "This formation was specially created by me for you. Do you know why it was made into a dog cage?" Ha 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 ha. You. Shui Hongyao's face turned blue. She immediately shouted, "Aren't you afraid that my Tai Xian Dao sect will step on your place?" The middle-aged Taoist shook his head, his gaze suddenly became cunning, and said coldly, "Everything has already been done, there is no turning back arrow when opening the bow. Do you think I will care? As for your Tai Xian Dao sect, it is even simpler. I bound you up and created thousands of formations that isolate the breath, layer after layer, to isolate the breath, even if you are Tu Xian Dao sect saint to come, if you want to find it, it will take a lot of trouble. Even if I found it, I would have fled long ago, ha ha ha." You. Shui Hongyao's face was livid, and she said angrily, "You are insidious." "Oh, big beauty, I'm just insidious, but what can you do with me?" The middle-aged Taoist was shameless, and his eyes flashed with an evil light. He also noticed Suchanga, but he was too lazy to talk to Suchanga. This kind of small roll, casually wiped out, he is too lazy to bird. 3, 2, 1. The middle-aged Taoist suddenly began to count down. At first, Shui Hongyao was puzzled, but when the other party counted 1, she suddenly felt dizzy, confused, and about to faint. She suddenly expected something, and her heart sank. It turned out that there was a hidden spiritual attack in this formation. Although this mental attack does not hurt life, when fainting, the other party does not know what he wants to do to himself, and can only be at the mercy. As soon as she thought of this, she already felt that her upper eyelids were fighting with her lower eyelids, and she was drowsy and couldn't hold on. She struggled and drank. You, shameless, mean, indecent. I'm shameless, mean, and indecent, but who in the outside world knows? The middle-aged Taoist said with a smug smile, not caring at all. Shui Hongyao didn't even have the strength to say a word of rebuttal, and her body fell limply. Before falling unconscious, she struggled to glance at Suchanga, secretly screaming that she would be left with the other party's life, but Xiao Gij would not. The only thing waiting for the little song is. She was extremely worried in her heart, but she could no longer hold on. Her eyes closed uncontrollably, and she completely fell into a coma. "Xiao Gij, I'm sorry, I hurt you." The last trace of consciousness flashed in her heart, and then she lost her life. The middle-aged Taoist raised his eyebrows and laughed, "Ha ha ha, beauty, you are mine." Immediately, he opened the dog cage and prepared to drag Shui Hongyao out. But at this moment, he suddenly discovered something and couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. "Hey, why didn't you fall?" He suddenly noticed that Shui Hongyao had fallen, but Suchanga was standing there with his head held high, like a golden spear that could not fall, and like a majestic Taishan that did not move, like a mountain, standing in place. Like that, without dizziness, without confusion, and even without moving his eyelids. On the contrary, there was a sharp essence overflowing in his pupils. And the whole person was like an immovable king, holy and majestic, standing tall. A pair of pupils bloomed like the abyss of hell, like the eyes of an ancient, ferocious beast, staring at him indifferently and mercilessly. Boom. Boom. Plop. It's the beating of the heart. The middle-aged Taoist felt an extremely terrifying strangeness, felt his heart thumping in his body, and his head was full of black lines, and he was stunned. You know, this dog cage formation is extremely strong, and the spiritual attack hidden inside has even won the power of the ascension period, such as Shui Hong Yao, so did he not take this person? And what is with his eyes? This? You, what's going on with you? Suchanga smiled coldly and did not explain at all. The Taichu Extreme Tao Code is immune to all spiritual attacks, and this person hits him in the face? He glanced at the dog cage, and said lightly, your formation, is it very powerful? The middle-aged Taoist hadn't returned to his senses, and only listened to boom. With a sound, a big seal was sacrificed, and it instantly skyrocketed in the formation, and the entire dog cage suddenly swelled, being stretched up from the inside, making a clicking violent sound, which could not withstand it at all. Boom. The dog cage couldn't bear it, cracked one crack after another, and exploded. What? What the? The middle-aged Taoist's face was stunned, and his face was full of disbelief. That great seal actually burst his formation? How is this possible? It's not good, this person is strange, go for the best policy. The middle-aged man knew that he had encountered a ruthless stubble, turned around and left, and did not dare to stay for a moment. As for Shui Hong Yao, her life is almost gone, what else do you want a woman to do? Want to go? Suchanga waved his big hand, and a golden divine light in his hand was fiercely sacrificed. It was the innate sun array. Once the large array was sacrificed, all the retreats between the electric flints were blocked, and even a mosquito did not want to escape. Bang! The middle-aged Taoist was flying towards the outside of the cave mansion at high speed, but suddenly bumped into the transparent space in front of him, and suddenly felt that his eyes were bursting with Venus, and he couldn't make an inch. Formation? He quickly took out a whisk and flicked it on this large array, but the large array did not move at all, and it could not be broken at all. However, he didn't care, turned his head and smiled viciously, you can't stop me, I have painstakingly studied the formation for thousands of years, and my achievements in the formation are not known to be many times stronger than you. Harry boy. He immediately covered the space in front of him with both palms, and began to comprehend this formation, preparing to break the formation. But just for a moment, his face changed drastically on the spot, and he was shocked. This formation is, he found that he couldn't even see what kind of formation it was. Not good. This person is a formation master, taller than me, and his attainment in formation is even more straight to crush me. The middle-aged Taoist exclaimed and lost his voice, and a deep sense of unreality surged in his heart. Suchanga walked up to him leisurely and said, you run, then run, why don't you run? The middle-aged Taoist's mouth twitched violently a few times, and he gritted his teeth and said, the junior does not know that the senior is coming. Please raise your noble hand. Snap. Suchanga raised his hand and slammed a loud slap on the middle-aged Taoist's face, instantly pulling out a blood-red slap print on his face, and his face became like a burning red soldering iron on the spot, and that piece of face also became red and swollen, as if rapidly expanding. Senior, have something to say. Snap. Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2aa54z8b. Another fierce slap was drawn, directly splashing him with a mouthful of blood, and fell to the ground fiercely. Senior, I was wrong just now, don't meet me in general. Suchanga pumped fiercely, desperately, and in just a few moments, he slapped more than 300 times, and his face was swollen, red and swollen, like a pig's head. The middle-aged Taoist's mouth full of teeth mixed with blood only felt That his face was numb, holding his head and wailing bitterly, "Don't fight. Don't fight, please. Untidy." Su Chang'e slapped him a few times, scolding while pumping, until he whimpered, as if a schoolboy had made a mistake. He lowered his head, and did not dare to say another word. At the end, Su Chang'e stopped his hand, his mind moved, he made a knife with his hand, and in an instant, the bones on his wrist transformed into a sharp and murderous machete, raised his hand and waved, cutting off the middle-aged Daoist's head. The middle-aged Daoist was shocked, and hurriedly begged for mercy. "Senior, don't. I know that I am wrong, although I covet her, but I have not succeeded, and the crime will not lead to death, Senior." Click. Su Chang'e arose and fell, and the terrifying light flashed, and the middle-aged Daoist's head was instantly cut in half. Then the body plopped, fell down, and died. A knife on the head of the color word, "It is not a pity to die." Su Chang'e cursed fiercely, and immediately searched on him for a while. As a ascending realm powerhouse, this middle-aged Daoist must have a rich family background. Sure enough, as Su Chang'e expected, he quickly took out a storage ring, opened it, and saw that there were a full 80 million top-grade spirit stones inside, as well as an agate gold piece of the material for casting holy soldiers, as well as a total of 180 moonstones and sunstones, shining and dazzling. In addition, there are some 10,000-year-old deer antler ginseng, which are all high-quality medicinal herbs and are worth a lot. Finally, he found a pure gold elixir at the bottom of the ring, and when he smelled it, he immediately felt that his mind was clear, and it should be a pill to relieve the spiritual attack. After the storage ring was searched, he began to search the cave house. This is the base camp of middle-aged Taoists, and needless to say, there must be good things. Soon, something strange was found on the cave wall. There is a small eye in the corner of the cave wall, cast in bronze, which looks like a keyhole. What about the keys? Su Chang'e Fox was suspicious, and immediately went to search for the middle-aged Daoist. But after searching for a while, I found nothing. Another villain with brains, good things never put on him. After scolding, he couldn't help it. But the next moment, he suddenly had a flash of light, slapped his forehead, and said, "If you want any key, just punch through it." Boom. He slammed a punch on the cave wall, instantly blasted the cave wall out of a 3-meter-high hole, and then walked in unimpeded. Here is a dark layer, shaped like a stone room, not large, 3 square, only a wooden table on which is placed a simple animal skin roll. Su Chang'e picked it up and looked at it, and his eyes suddenly lit up. Thunder formation. Listening to the name, you know that it is definitely a treasure. Su Chang'e casually opened it and took a look, only to see that the inside seal was engraved with dense ancient characters, like tadpoles, and no one knew it. But he doesn't need to know, just brush the subsidy directly anyway. Su Chang'e now has only one large array in his hands, but the private bank has 2, so he still needs one, and it just so happens that this is coming. Next, he walked out, took out a crowbar, and cut out all the strange gemstones on the ceiling, and found that these were all valuable radiant stones, a full 888, each worth millions of spirit stones. He didn't stop until he cut it everywhere like a dog, leaving nothing but dull and plain stones. Wolf extinction. P.S. Sick, top-heavy, exhausted, 2 more chapters today, sorry, really, sorry. In addition, thank you, heart_suit, for the gift. Subsequently, Su Chang'e returned to Shui Hongyao, picked her up, broke open her pink lips, and fed the golden pill. After about a quarter of an hour, Shui Hongyao poofed and let out a turbid breath and opened her eyes. What came into view was Xiao Gige's handsome face, and she was in his arms. Her brain instantly became blank, at a loss, and stumbled, "You. Little Song. Are you all right?" "It's okay." Su Chang'e patted her shoulder and signaled her to calm down. Shui Hongyao trembled, and a little cold sweat broke out on her forehead. The spiritual attack she received just now was too terrifying, and she fell into a hellish black sea-like place, and there were dead corpses everywhere between heaven and earth, and those dead corpses held up their bones and jagged arms, opened their teeth and danced their claws, and tore towards her. But compared to these, she was more worried about Su Chang'e, because she knew that those were illusions, and the middle-aged Taoist would not let her really die, but Xiao Gige was. But he turned out. "It's okay?" she hurriedly asked. "You. Why are you okay?" Su Chang'e smiled heartily and said, "Why is Senior Mother listening to what you mean? Do you want me to have something?" Shui Hongyao was stunned, and hurriedly changed her words. "No, I mean. Why is that? Did someone save us?" Su Chang'e explained with a smile, "No one saved us, but that person had a heart demon. He just opened the dog cage and wanted to drag you out, but somehow suddenly the heart demon broke out. He held his head and fell into the struggle, rolling all over the ground in pain, and finally lost to the heart demon and died." Phew! Shui Hongyao breathed a long sigh of relief. "It's really a blessing from heaven." Just after speaking, she suddenly remembered a detail. Her pupils shrank sharply, and said, "No, it's not right." Su Chang'e's eyes froze slightly. "What's wrong?" Shui Hongyao looked directly at him and asked, "At the moment when I completely fell into a coma, I clearly saw that you were the same as no one. Standing more stable than anyone. What's going on? Why aren't you in a coma?" "It stands to reason that if you don't cultivate, you can't even hold on for a short second under the spiritual attack. But why is Xiaojij intact?" Su Chang'e smiled and did not speak. This scene made Shui Hongyao's heart move, and she felt that something was wrong. Could it be that he has cultivation? And for the past 4 years, it has been hiding from us? One after another memories crossed her mind. All of them were memories of the past 4 years, but looking back to the end, she didn't find any of the memories that were strange. But only in front of us, there are clues. Am I too sensitive? Her beautiful eyes showed a touch of incredulity. Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2AA54Z8B. At this time, Su Chang'e spoke. "Master, why don't you think about it? All the attention of that person is on you, and he doesn't take me seriously at all. And the spiritual attack is only aimed at you, too lazy to bird me." Shui Hongyao listened and suddenly realized. "You're right, I'm too sensitive." Immediately, she took off the delicate pollen on her waist and handed it to Su Chang'e. "The matter has been done, naturally it has to be given to him." Su Chang'e took this sachet, originally wanting to give it to Xiaoyu or Lier to brush subsidies, but suddenly thought about it and felt that the two of them didn't seem to need it much. Because they are usually with them at night, they smell the flowers when they sleep at night, and the two of them are also smelling the flowers around them. And a bag of pollen can be used by 3 people at the same time, so there is no need to give it to them at all, and more is a waste. Then still look for ready-made brushes. Thinking of this, he returned the linglong pollen to Shui Hongyao and said, "Master, I suddenly remembered, you gave me this thing, so what should you do? So I'll give it back to you." Upon hearing this, Shui Hongyao suddenly felt warm in her heart, like a warm current flowing into her heart, spreading there, diffusing, reaching the depths of her heart. Xiao Gij was worried that he could no longer consolidate his cultivation. Without the sachet, Wu, so moved. This is putting himself in his heart. She did not refuse, took the delicate pollen back, and said softly, I want. This is really useful. How about this? How about I compensate you with my intimate sachet? That only has a fragrance, not a strengthening effect, just for you. Suchanga smiled and waved his hand. I don't have to think so, right? Nope. Shui Hongyao was very insistent. I sent you, you must accept it. Saying that, he took out the sachet from his arms and forcibly put it on Suchang. Singer. Suchanga was helpless and had to take it. Then he sniffed lightly. Suddenly I felt a charming fragrance coming to my nose, and the fragrance on the woman's body, like smelling a blooming gardenia, refreshing. This is Shui Hongyao's intimate thing, she carries it with her on weekdays. Inches away, you must know her natural posture and national color, eyes are as bright as water, eyebrows are picturesque, fair melon seed, pretty face, tender white skin, body is convex and upturned, willow waist is cute, jade legs are slender, mature, and knowing. Sex, anyone who looks at it will be heartbroken. Not to mention the intimate things on this body, I don't know how many men dream of the most precious treasure. How's that, fragrant or not? Shui Hongyao's pretty face involuntarily flushed a slight crimson and asked. Suchanga smiled and said, Xiang, really fragrant. At this time, in my mind, the system's subsidy arrived. Ding. You sent out. Ding. You sent a bag of exquisite pollen, tens of billions of subsidies took effect, triggering an excess critical attack. This excess critical attack multiplier, 120,000 times. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Xianlong Tsongpa pendant. Pendant? Suchanga was slightly stunned, but he didn't expect to subsidize the ornaments. He looked at the system space, and saw a palm-sized pendant jewelry suspended. There, the whole body was golden and clear, surrounded by white mist-like rhymes, and the surface was engraved with a Xianlong totem, and the whole looked like a piece of amber. Take a sip and there is a faint fragrance of spirituality. The system sounds. Xianlong amber pendant, the world's greatest treasure made of Xianlong amber. Worn on the body, it can consolidate cultivation and greatly shorten the time to consolidate cultivation. Suchanga suddenly understood. This is the same as the effect of delicate pollen, except that this shape is a pendant and that is a sachet. And the effect of this locket throws out the delicate pollen. I don't know how many streets, delicate pollen has to be absorbed overnight, this at most an hour is enough. It was at this moment that he suddenly realized that if Linglong pollen is used by many people at the same time, the effect seems to be weakened, because the floral fragrance is shared by many people, while the Xianlong Tsongpa pendant will not. At this time, Shui Hongyao took out a flying sword and said with a smile, Let's go back, right? This time, the matter was successfully resolved. Originally she just planned to let the Taoist surnamed Song stop entangled. But she didn't expect that he directly killed himself, and will never be entangled again in the future, which is really a surprise and a great joy. Okay, let's go. Suchanga nodded. When I returned to the sect, it was already dark. It was dusk when I left, and it was now late at night. After the two landed, they both said goodbye. Then, Shui Hongyao went back towards the small courtyard, while Suchanga walked towards the wooden house. Halfway through, Suchanga found a secluded place where no one was, took out 10,000-year-old ginseng and deer antler velvet, and ran the quenching spirit. Secret technique to start removing impurities. Jiao, jiao, jiao. As the voice sounded, soon, the silting impurities inside these medicinal materials were removed, transforming into crystal clear supreme grade medicinal materials. Then, with a thought in his mind, he entered the system space. The fairy queen corpse was still lying there, like a sleeping beauty. Suchanga walked in front of her and pressed ginseng and deer antler velvet on her, and suddenly, the two medicinal herbs turned into a brilliant golden light and disappeared into her body. The complexion of the fairy queen's corpse turned rosy again, as if it was a blooming pink bud. Next, Suchanga walked to the wooden barrel full of cold pheasant frost. Silkworm dew, flew up, lifted the lid, and then scooped a spoonful with a spoon and drank it. The cold pheasant frost silkworm was exposed into the body, and suddenly felt extremely comfortable in the body, just like drinking cold drinks on a hot day, cold and refreshing. He continued to drink. After a cup of tea, drink 1/5. At this time, Suchanga stopped. Because he felt that the essence in his body was rioting, the green tendons were violent, the true chi was agitated, and Kongwu was powerful. That green tendon appeared on the surface of the body, and a booming sound erupted, as if there were thousands of troops galloping inside, which was very terrifying. This shows that the true chi in the body has been moisturized to the limit, and if you drink it again, it is likely to be burst. This also reflects from the side how powerful the effect of cold pheasant cream dew is. Since you have drunk enough, then leave 2/5 for Xiaoyu and Lianer, and 2/5 of the extra 2/5 for the fairy queen female corpse, to absorb. Suchanga hit the idea on the female corpse. Just do it. He scooped a spoonful of cold pheasant frost silkworm dew and sent it to the female corpse. But something miraculous happened. This cold pheasant frost silkworm dew did not turn into a cloud of golden light and submerged into her body, that is, it could not be absorbed automatically. Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2AA54Z8B. What's going on? His brows furrowed and he guessed, do you want me to open my mouth to feed? I tried several more times, but I couldn't absorb it on my own. In the end, Suchanga had to squat down, touch her right palm on the face of the female corpse as white as the moon, break her delicate and rosy lips, and feed the cold pheasant frost silkworm dew. Phew, the female corpse actually made a grunt of drinking water in her throat, and then swallowed. Huh? Suchanga only felt that something was wrong. Could it be that this female corpse was revived? But why not speak after recovery? He pinched the female corpse's delicate face, and the female corpse did not respond. No recovery. He shook his head and continued feeding. Soon, 2/5 of the allotted cold pheasant frost silkworm dew was drunk into the stomach by the fairy queen corpse. Her complexion became more and more rosy, as if moisturized by a great supplement. Her face was white and red, but she just didn't wake up. Suchanga looked at her and muttered, strange, why can't you wake up after absorbing so many treasures? According to common sense, there are so many heavenly materials and earth treasures brushed in Longling Grotto, which can definitely wake her up, but now with so many cold pheasant frost silkworm dew, she hasn't woken up yet? What's going on? Could it be said that the immortal king of the primeval era is still different from the immortal king today? After thinking about it for a long time, Suchanga didn't come up with a reason. In the end, he had to stop sticking to this. Anyway, it will wake up someday. Let's go back to the Little Mercy first and test the efficacy of the Shanlong. Sampa pendant. He lifted his foot and walked out of the system space. Unbeknownst to him, the corners of the Fairy Queen corpse, behind her mouth, moved slightly. A brilliant eye opened, releasing an unparalleled divine brilliance, as if the 2 clear moons in the sky were blooming, gorgeous and soft, giving people an unreal feeling. Gone? She sat up and looked at the empty floor in front of her, thoughtfully. In fact, Suchanga's trip to Longling Grotto, she had already revived, but she did not tell Suchanga. She didn't mean to hide it, but she was very hesitant in her heart and couldn't make up her mind. This strange man, who was very good to her, was better than anyone in the primeval period to her, and used endless heavenly treasures to wake her up from her slumber, but do you want to tell him? There was gratitude in her eyes, and there was also stunned, and she whispered, but if I recover, I will not be treated so well again. Those heavenly treasures, as the power of the primeval era, she has never even seen it, she doesn't know it at all, and she is dazzled. This shows that it is undoubtedly an extremely powerful treasure. Once revived, the other party's kindness to her will also end here, which she does not want to see. But if I don't recover, will he do something to me? She looked down at her slim body. The slim waist is like a thin willow in spring, the body is graceful and moving, and the jade face is fairy and jade. He is a man, how can he not be moved? Thinking of the precious essence, he had just opened his small mouth to feed the precious essence, his delicate face suddenly added a touch of crimson. Just leave it alone, you must not recover. The body is something outside the body, far less important than treasures. If he really thinks something, I should be at his mercy and repay him.